They even went to a particular community and blindfolded the king of a particular community.
Which community is that?
In Delta State. I mean, it's on Facebook. You see the particular person. And sporadic shooting and all those things. For the IPOB, the same thing. They were having peaceful protest. The government will send troops to disperse them and even kill some of them. We have not seen an equal response to the issue, to the issue of herdsmen. That's number one. Okay. Number two, when you look at, and you should ask yourself, what is generating this dissent by the people in the Southeast or the South-South? They look at the appointment. The president has appointed 53 people so far. Out of the 53 people he has appointed, 28 are from the Northwest. 8 is from the Northeast. 6 is from the South-South. The Southwest and the Southwest has 5. North Central has 5. And the East, Southeast has only 1, which was just about a few weeks ago. I mean, a few days ago. And when you look at when you break it down, 70% of his appointment is from the North, the core North. Then the crops is left for the rest to share. How will people not feel? I mean, and this is our number one citizen. The third schedule of the Constitution says that there must be proportional representation of Nigerians in the political, in the economic, in the bureaucratic setting, in such a way that, number one, you engender unity and you create loyalty to the state. Has the president done that?
Yes, you were talking about arms influx into the country. And I think that is within the purview of...
So you don't disagree with the point he's made now?
Oh, the point is made. Okay. In respect of that, yeah, I think to a large extent he has a point there that maybe the president should come out more forcefully. But I think also I've heard the president on television where he was saying that the security forces should go after the herdsmen. And so that's what I keep saying, that the duty of the president really is to give the strategic direction.
You know why I want us to talk more on what Professor Ellis has brought up is, first, we're talking about the importance of lives here. Yeah. We have seen lives being lost in these communities as a result of the activities of herdsmen. If you put that side by side with what has happened in the Niger Delta, no one is saying crime can't, but now we're trying to equate the form of criminality that has happened. Lives have been lost, over 100 lives have been lost so far, and you have invaded a community because of pipeline vandalism, and people are saying, wait a minute, they should have seen the same kind of force. That's what he's saying. Is it that, Prof?
Exactly.
And he said, we haven't seen that.
Yeah, what happens is that it's a difficult scenario. Because you talk about herdsmen, they are widespread, and you have our units located all over the states that can engage them on the request of the state governor. That's why I keep telling you about the security architecture of this nation. If we keep saying, Mr. President, we're not going to get it right. Our institutions will never be built. Everybody that has a responsibility to the security of human life should wake up to that responsibility.
You're also a psychologist. You do teach psychology. Yeah. So I heard the governor who said the other time, said that, look, leadership is not what you say to the people. It's what the people hear you say. So if the people out there, you heard Mr. President give certain directives. Yeah. Are the people hearing the same thing, or are they seeing what Professor Adisa said? They're seeing something different. Well,
that is where I tell you there's a gap in the security sector. That gap is in terms of the human power that's involved, that is expected to carry out the directives of Mr. President. When there's that gap, until you bridge that gap, you're going to have a problem. So what is that gap, and how do we bridge it? I've told you about the nature, the professionalism of the personnel that should do the job. Let me go back to the Boko Haram issue, and when you talk about achievement, I told you it's a very difficult, it's problematic to talk about achievements in terms of the strategy that have been deployed so far. A book published by Peter Watson in 1978 talked about the psychological reaction patterns of soldiers in battle. And what is that psychological reaction pattern? it is actually in 3 phases. You talk about the pre-induction, movement into combat, and while in combat, the arrival period, the intermediate period, and the terminal period. Now what happens is that at the arrival period, the psychological reaction pattern is fear. Fear of your loved ones, fear of your family. Am I going to lose them? So soldiers normally desert at that period. They defect. But of course, if you now understand that that is the situation, you have to introduce mechanisms. And that is why, for instance, we discovered in the last administration, they have to bring it court-martial to court-martial those who are defecting.
Okay.
So when that is done, it now makes sure, it now makes soldiers to have this belief that, oh, if we do this, there's going to be a repercussion, so we better fight and win the war. Then, of course, they become, and they do that in the terminal stage, the intermediate phase. You see them conditioned to the battle. They are now used to the sight and sound of battle.
All right, let me bring in
that's how you can get results.
Let's find out, what are the people conditioned to now? I mean, when you spoke with them, representing different groups that you do represent, what do they think or say the solution to all of this can be?
Yeah. In fact, there was a publication I made online about 7 things Nigerians expect President Buhari to do. One is to go out publicly and denounce the activities of his kinsmen, the headsmen. I've seen the transcript of his speech today. I saw Boko Haram, I saw IPOB, I saw Niger Delta militants. There was no single mention of Fulani headsmen. And when you look at the Global Terrorism Association, the GTI, the Global Terrorism Index, Boko Haram is ranked as the deadliest terrorist group all over the world. In 2014, they overtook ISIL, followed by ISIL, then followed by Al-Shabaab, which operates in Somalia and Yemen. Fulani headsmen came fourth as one of the worst terrorist organizations in Nigeria. That means our nation is harboring 2 of the 5 deadliest terrorist groups in the country, the world. And our president could not speak on that in his address to the nation. There's a problem. So that's number 1. Number 2, I expect the president, who is the grand patron of Miyetti Allah, and is a life patron of Miyetti Allah cattle breeders, to call his people have, on several fora have said, we are responsible for this. They were reprisal attack because Fulani people were killed or their cattle were rustled.
Not the foreigners? I thought you said 80% of them are foreigners.
No. They claim, forget about 80% of them are foreigners. These are all semantics. The Fulani, they are the most nomadic people in the whole world. They are 20 million in population, and they are spread over 22 countries. 20 in West Africa, 2 in Sudan and Egypt. They regard themselves as brothers. They regard themselves as kinsmen. They are banned culturally. They are banned by religion. And so if somebody says this is a foreigner, it's a lie. When you go to Jibia in Katsina State, or some of those border states, you cannot say this is a Nigerian Fulani man or a Fulani man from Niger. They interact together. So when people say this is a foreigner, it's a semantic. That's number 2. Number 3, I expect the president to go on those media outlets that his countrymen listen to, his kinsmen listen to, especially BBC Hausa, and say in unmistaken terms, unmistakable terms, that this will not be condoned by this government. Number 4, I expect him to say the victims of this violence, just like we are doing for the Northeast, the internally displaced people, we are trying to create a commission, just like the Niger Delta Commission, that there should be compensation. The Foreign Development Institute in the UK estimated that Nigeria lost about $12 billion in terms of income that would have been generated just because of the crisis in the North Central because of the Fulani herdsmen. So I would have expected him to say, let's compensate these people. I would expect him to say, immediately disarm anybody that carry arms. Whether it's Boko Haram, whether it's cattle herdsmen, whether it's IPOB, whether it's Avengers, disarm them. I also expect our president to know that insurgency, criminality breed on a socio-economic milieu. If the socio-economic milieu is bad, for instance, the Pew organization in the US, they did the research in the North and discovered that 20%, that's 2 out of 10 Northerners want an Islamic state. 1 in 10, that's 10%, support Boko Haram. Which means that even if you fight that war and you win, people have already been radicalized. The people that you want to win over are they already support the insurgents. So how do you overcome them? So the government should look at the socio-economic problem that creates insurgency. While they are dealing with the security aspect, it should be a carrot and stick approach, like the Avengers, like the IPOB. I would have expected the president to say, Avengers, come to my office. You are my brothers. You are my sons and daughters, because he's the father of the nation. You are my sons and daughters. Come, let us sit down together. What is the problem?
Would there be any reason for the president not to do all of this?
Oh, a lot of what he has said actually are in order. I think the president needs to do that because we have a very serious challenge, and I think he can go up to that level to ensure that is done. Yeah, that will help us.
All right, and gentlemen, we've been talking to Professor Charles Adisa, who is a professor of surgery and surgical oncologist, lectures at the Abia State University, among the several caps he wears. And then we also have Colonel Wilson Ejide, retired, he's also a doctor, of industrial organizational psychology. He lectures in the Department of Psychology, University of Ibadan. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on today. Well, don't forget, you could also join the conversation, #Buhari 365 days. We'll be back in a minute. Join us again.